With the release of the new Fantastic Four movie, I got curious about the team's history. Did you know that despite the name, there's been 21 members of the Fantastic Four? From the founders to kings and queens, some heroes may even be hired. I'm checking out the first comic where every Fantastic Four member joined the team. Kicking it off with the founding members in Fantastic Four #1. You all know the story. 4 researchers go into space, get bombarded with cosmic rays, and crash back down into Earth, gaining various strange powers and immediately deciding to become heroes. Like, I just want to stress how quickly this happens. Their ship crashes into the ground, one of them lights on fire, another is made out of rocks, and they instantly go, yeah, we're the Fantastic Four now. You're the Human Torch, you're Invisible Woman, you're the Thing, and I'm Mr. Fantastic. We cut to a few days later, and Reed Richards sends off a flare to summon the group, which doesn't go quite so well. The Thing gets shot at by the cops before falling into a sewer, while Invisible Woman won't turn off her powers, so she scares off her cab driver. And Johnny is literally being shot at by the military. Eventually, they all meet up, Reed revealing that a bunch of monsters have begun attacking the world, so they track down the source, Monster Isle, and fly there. Turns out, the place is run by the Mole Man. They try to fight him, but he just summons more monsters before running away and blowing up the entire island. Our first new member is a little complicated, appearing in Fantastic Four Annual #6. Sue Storm is pregnant, but the cosmic radiation that gave them their powers might kill the baby. So Reed, Johnny, and Ben head into another universe named the Negative Zone to search for Element X, which can save them. Reed mentions it takes a bit for human eyes to adjust to the Negative Zone, so for the first few panels, the background keeps changing, which I thought was cool. Suddenly, they're kidnapped by some alien creatures and are confronted by their leader, one of the group's strongest villains, the immortal Annihilus. He steals their jetpacks and starts toying with them. Like, truly, Annihilus is only in this for shits and giggles. He releases a giant boot to stomp on them, and then sets an angry sponge after the Human Torch to extinguish him. Of course, the Fantastic Three win the fight and steal Annihilus's cosmic wand, which is the source of his immortality, but also contains the right energies to save Sue's baby. They steal a ship, nearly getting away, but Annihilus shoots them down and they land on a floating rock, which is in some weird zone where their powers don't work. He shows up and starts taunting them, Reed making a deal to exchange the cosmic rod for the jetpacks. But before giving it back, he drains the rod of its energy. Finally, they're able to fly back through the portal, right in time to deliver Element X so Sue can give birth to Franklin Richards. And this is why I said it was complicated. Franklin is 100% part of the Fantastic Four. He helps them out in fights and he's worn the uniform. He even currently goes by the codename Powerhouse. But since he's their son and the team is treated like a family, he just kinda always has a slot on the team. There's no comic I can find where he officially becomes a member, so I thought his birth just made the most sense. Our next character is much simpler, showing up just a month later in Fantastic Four #81. Sue Storm is currently on maternity leave, so they've replaced her with Johnny Storm's girlfriend, the Inhuman Crystal. Well, not quite. She's wearing the outfit, but Reed still hasn't decided if she can officially join. Luckily, she quickly gets a chance to prove herself, as we cut to the Wizard, who's made a glove that gives him all the powers of the Fantastic Four. He starts causing mayhem, hoping to attract the group's attention, which works, and they show up in the Fantastic Car. But he easily counters the main three. Unfortunately, he didn't plan for the new member, and the fact that she has control over all elements, allowing her to stop his flight with wind before burying him under some earth, and attempting to gas him. He manages to get away, diving into the water and swimming to safety. The comic ending with Reed officially deeming Crystal a member of the Fantastic Four, despite the fact she did kinda let the villain get away. Sticking to the same family tree, we get Fantastic Four #132. We start off in the inhuman city of Atalan, as their slaves, the Alpha Primitives, have just started a revolution, incited by a massive android named Omega, who's currently attacking Johnny, Crystal, and Quicksilver, though they quickly realize that their attacks are only making him bigger and stronger. He bursts through a wall and ends up in the main palace. Mr. Fantastic and the Thing are helping out the Inhumans before the trio from earlier comes rushing in, fighting against their own friends. Finally, Crystal is able to make a big speech about how the Inhumans were kinda jerks for making a slave race, and that the android had actually been created by the Inhumans themselves, as there was a machine that sucked in all the guilt that the Inhumans had, creating an android out of their own slavery guilt. It was the 70s, man. The writers would not be allowed in a Kevin Feige movie. The Inhumans eventually realize she's right, and the two groups make peace and go their separate ways. Omega going into sleep mode, but always on guard in case the Inhumans decide to go slave mode again. They thank the Fantastic Four by using a ray to magically repair their outfits. The Human Torch deciding to mix his up a bit, inspired by the original 40s Human Torch. But there's another surprise, as Crystal's mother Medusa suddenly changes her outfit into a Fantastic Four suit, explaining that Black Bolt wants the Inhumans to understand the human world better, so he's sending her to join the team to get some experience. You might be wondering, wait, but what about Crystal? Well, this comic ends with Johnny and Crystal breaking up, as Crystal has fallen in love with Quicksilver. A few years later, it's Fantastic Four number 168. Ben Grimm has mysteriously lost his powers in a fight with the Hulk, so the group has decided to hire a hero as a replacement. Wait, hire a hero? That could only mean the hero for hire, Luke Cage, aka Power Man. He proves his strength by randomly destroying one of the team's robots before they're called into battle against the Wrecker. Ben still comes along though, desperate to prove he doesn't need his power to be useful. He's not though, as he immediately gets knocked to the ground with a single punch. The rest of the group start fighting, but Ben gets up and charges in, again getting knocked out with a single hit. The Wrecker kidnapping him and climbing to the top of a building. Reed manages to grab his legs, but that just makes him accidentally drop Ben off the side of the building, though Luke Cage catches him. No one catches the Wrecker though, and the comic ends with Ben accepting that he's no use as a superhero anymore, leaving the team. We skip right over that arc though and hop into the 80s for Fantastic Four number 238. Johnny Storm has just come to see his girlfriend, Frankie Ray. A mysterious costume has just appeared fused to her body. Johnny tries to help get it off her, but out of nowhere she lights on fire and flies away. He does the same to chase her down, though she's not freaking out anymore. She's actually yelling about how free she feels, telling Johnny she's just remembered how she got the costume. Her father was the creator of the original Human Torch android from the 40s, and when Johnny Storm started using the name, he got pissed off and wanted to show the world who the real Human Torch was, going to his old lab with Frankie. But a chemical barrel ends up falling on top of her, giving her Human Torch abilities. He created the costume for her to help her control her powers, but then decided to hypnotize her into forgetting she even had them in the first place, though her recent relationship with Johnny has finally made her snap out of it. He brings her to the Baxter building and they manage to convince Reed to let her join the team, joking about becoming the Fantastic Five. The comic ends with Reed inventing a machine that can cure the Thing. Unfortunately, or maybe fortunately since we saw earlier, he just wants his powers back anyways. The machine doesn't work. It actually reverts him back to how he originally looked when he first became the Thing. Our next character comes at the end of the first Secret Wars, in Secret Wars number 12. Dr. Doom has stolen the power of the Beyonder, the cosmic being who brought them all to Battleworld, and he's used it to kill off all the heroes. But the power is nearly too much for even him, as he has to concentrate so hard on not accidentally altering reality that he can't sleep, appointing the villain Claw as his guard to wake him up. Unfortunately, Claw is currently being possessed by the Beyonder, who wants his power back. So he starts ranting about how it's possible one of the heroes may have survived. Someone could have sacrificed themselves for Reed Richards. Captain America has survived death countless times. Could Doom really kill a god like Thor? Then Claw starts telling him about how he should unlock just a little bit of the power, just enough to check if they're really dead, which Doom does, his power accidentally reviving all the heroes. He starts losing control of it altogether, Claw convincing Doom to share some of the energy to protect him, which Doom does, and a massive fight breaks out between the heroes and Claw's cosmic creations. Captain America sneaks by though, and challenges Doom himself, immediately getting vaporized. But since Doom is thinking about Cap after killing him, he gets instantly revived. This goes on for a while before Cap gets close enough to realize that Doom is about to accidentally tear the universe apart, Steve offering to help take half of the power, which Doom again accepts. But the Beyonder escapes Claw's body and intercepts the transfer, taking all his power back. Claw and Doom being vaporized and finally ending the Secret Wars. Everyone starts to rest up, with Cap literally repairing his shield through sheer force of will. Finally, Reed creates a device that can send everyone back to Earth, though Ben Grimm decides he wants to stay on Battleworld, as for some reason on this planet he has control over his power, being able to swap forms at will. But he offers a replacement, Jennifer Walters, aka She-Hulk. The comic ends with them all heading home, while Ben sits alone. Returning to the main series, we get Fantastic Four number 306. Captain America has just taken down the Power Broker and saved one of his employees, Sharon Ventura. She also happens to have a bit of a past with the Thing, as they were both briefly wrestlers together. Cap is dropping her off in New York before heading to Washington. We cut to Ben Grimm though, who's also roaming the city, with the Inhuman Crystal, when suddenly they're attacked by Diablo and his elementals. They manage to overwhelm the duo, but the rest of the Fantastic Four show up to help, though they also get beaten pretty easily. Out of nowhere though, Sharon sucker punches Diablo in the back of the head, causing his elementals to disappear, saving the team. Sharon starts to vent to Ben about all the troubles in her life, and he decides she can join the Fantastic Four under her wrestling name, Miss Marvel. Fun bonus fact, she later gets mutated and becomes Miss Thing. We get the biggest team change since its formation in Fantastic Four number 347. A rogue Skrull has just infiltrated the Fantastic Four's headquarters, using their shape-shifting abilities to distract each member of the group before knocking them all out. We quickly cut to space as some other Skrulls have tracked her down. Well, they got the location slightly wrong, as they end up on Monster Isle, where a bunch of kaijus are fighting, but they decide to use this detour to their advantage, mind controlling the monsters and sending them loose across the world to find the rogue Skrull. Back in New York, Spider-Man's spidey senses start directing him to the Fantastic Four's building, where he runs into Hulk and Wolverine, who've also been mysteriously led there. Out of nowhere, Danny Ketch Ghost Rider appears, driving straight up the wall to reach Sue Storm, who's clearly still the Skrull in disguise. She announces the Fantastic Four have all died, and she used one of Reed's inventions to summon them here, deeming them them the new Fantastic Four, and sending them off to fight the Skrulls monsters. To finish off the 90s, we get Fantastic Four number 384. Most of the team is returned, but Reed Richards has gone missing, assumed to be dead. So they've decided they need someone to fill Reed's place as the smart guy on the team. Now it's time to play a little game. Who did they get? Is it Ant-Man, 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 or Ant-Man? Oh, I'm so sorry. It was actually answer number 5, Ant-Man, aka Scott Lang. I can't believe you get a mix up with the other 4. I'll pin your comment if you can get other names right. We then cut to a future version of Franklin Richards, who's developed godlike superpowers. His future is completely destroyed, so he dons a set of armor, calling himself Psylord, before heading to the present day to attack the Fantastic Four, as he believes they're the ones responsible for the future being screwed up. He easily beats the entire group, locking himself and Sue in a room together, using his psychic abilities to invade her mind. But inside, he ends up finding her alter ego, Malice. They get into a big fight, and she actually ends up overwhelming him, taking over his body and flying away as the comic ends. Heading into the 2000s, we get Fantastic Four number 472. Reed, Sue, and Ben are trapped in the negative zone with no way home. They're not alone though. Some Inhumans have tagged along, and there's also some Marines roaming the place. Turns out those Marines have actually managed to capture Annihilus, as the trio find him being tortured. None of that matters to us though. We'll find our character back on Earth, as we discover it was a corporation that opened the portal to the negative zone, trying to siphon energy out of it, which I assume is what they were doing to Annihilus. Johnny decides to break into their headquarters, but needs to recruit a new team to help him, including returning members She-Hulk and Scott Lang, along with a new member, Namor's cousin, Namorita. Ant-Man shrinks them all down and they sneak into the building, but they've also apparently stolen some of Reed's tech, as a swarm of mini Herbiebots begin attacking them. They beat them by returning to full size, just in time to be attacked by a giant android as the comic ends. We get our next member of the family in Fantastic Four number 483. Sue Storm is pregnant, but because her and Reed smashed in the negative zone, the baby is full of cosmic energy Sue can't handle. She's hanging out with some Inhumans who are desperately trying to call in Reed for help, but he's been captured by a rogue Inhuman group known as the Hidden Ones, a bunch of gray mind controllers who've secretly been influencing human society. They've also captured the Thing because he's stuck in his human form. We cut to Johnny Storm, who's decided if they can't find Reed, there's only one other person he can turn to, Dr. Doom, who agrees to help out before we check back in with Ben, who through sheer determination has transformed back into the Thing and saves Reed, managing to take out the Hidden Ones, but they suddenly vanish. Their final words implying that they assassinated JFK. Eventually they make it to Sue, but the baby's already been born safely thanks to Doom's combination of magic and science. However, in return, Sue agreed to let him name the baby, as he names it Valeria Richards, swearing to protect her from any harm as the comic ends. And Valeria's in the same boat as Franklin, where she's definitely a member of the team. She currently goes by the codename Brainstorm, but since she's a member of the family, she kind of just joins and leaves whenever she wants, like Franklin does. Jumping a few years ahead, we reach the end of Civil War. The whole team got separated by the event, but they've recently reunited. Johnny and the Thing watching a documentary about the Fantastic Four with Franklin and Valeria, which includes a bunch of clips of past members talking about the group. The documentary actually takes up the majority of the comic, but we do briefly cut to Reed and Sue, who are talking about their relationship and how rocky it's been. Finally, they head back home and announce to Ben and Johnny they want to take a break from the team, but they're not going to leave them hanging. They've brought 2 replacements, T'Challa, aka the Black Panther, and Ororo Munroe, aka Storm. And then nobody else joins the team for over a decade. Well, kind of. In the early 2010s, the Fantastic Four became the Future Foundation, which functioned more like the X-Men, but instead of mutants, it was anyone who was smart. If I went through like all 30 people who joined, this video would be over double the size, so I'll just skip right over that era to our secret final member in Fantastic Four number 669. Ben and Alicia have just adopted 2 alien kids, so the whole family is throwing a big dinner to celebrate. Everyone shows up on time, except Franklin, who's hanging out on the mutant island Krakoa. Sue gets pissed off, so Iceman offers to give him a ride home. When they get there though, the security system recognizes them both as Fantastic Four members, Iceman commenting on it as he walks in, which pisses Johnny Storm off, yelling about how Bobby was never a true member of the team. He claims differently though, as we flash back all the way to the 60s, where the group just got a letter saying that Johnny's solo comic has been outselling the Fantastic Four comic, so he decides he doesn't need them anymore and leaves the group. Unfortunately, not long after, AIM decides to start attacking the city, the new Fantastic Three barely managing to keep them at bay, though we quickly cut to the X-Mansion, where Iceman has just found out Cyclops has been putting the Danger Room tests on baby mode just for him. So he also decides to leave his group, arriving just in time to help the Fantastic Four. And they decide to let him take Johnny's spot, going on to fight more villains like Red Ghost and Puppet Master. It turns out all those fights were in the exact same day though, as we cut to Johnny, who's watching the news, getting pissed off that they replaced him so quickly. So he interrupts the battle they're fighting against Conquesta to attack Iceman. Sue eventually separates them, and they agree to work together to take down the villain. Professor X, having watched watched the whole thing, calls Iceman home, saying he's proved he can face actual danger. Finally, we flash back to the present, where Johnny reveals he was never truly angry at Iceman. It's just that the Fantastic Four are a family, even temporary members. But every other new member joined because of a big event, like Sue being pregnant or Reed going missing. But the only reason Iceman joined was because Johnny's ego got too big. However, he's now realized that no matter what the reason for joining is, the family getting bigger is never a bad thing, ending the comic by agreeing Iceman was an official member of the Fantastic Four.